December 18th, 1951. 27,000 feet above the Yalu River. The sky is frozen mercury, pale and hard and infinite. Below, the mountains of North Korea fold into themselves like wrinkled brown paper, lifeless except for the thin black ribbon of river that separates two worlds. On one side, communist China. On the other, a war that has no name yet, only numbers, coordinates, body counts, mission objectives. Captain Everett Dalton's F-86 Sabre climbs vertical, the jet engine screaming as it converts speed into altitude. His breath comes in short gasps through the oxygen mask. The G-forces are crushing him into the seat, 4 times his body weight pressing down on his chest, his arms, his skull. Above him, perhaps 1,000 feet ahead, and climbing faster, a silver MiG-15 twists through the thin air like a knife through water. The Soviet pilot knows his machine, knows that at this altitude the MiG has the advantage. Superior thrust to weight. Superior climb rate. At 27,000 feet, the American jet should be gasping, should be falling away. But Everett is still there. His right hand grips the control stick, not yanking, not jerking, squeezing. Gentle pressure, smooth inputs the way they taught him, the way he hated learning. His left hand is forward on the throttle firewall, maximum power. The engine temperature gauge is pushing into the red. He doesn't look at it. He looks at the gun sight. The A4 computing gun sight, a black metal box mounted behind the armored glass of the windscreen. Inside it, gyroscopes are spinning at 24,000 revolutions per minute, floating in oil so pure it took 6 months to refine. The radar in the nose of his aircraft is measuring the distance to the MiG 1,187 feet precise to within 3 feet. And on the reflector glass in front of Everett's eyes, an orange circle appears. The pipper, the aiming point. It is not where the MiG is. It is not where every fiber of Everett's training, every hour of flying, every instinct honed over 200 combat hours tells him it should be. The pipper is drifting to the left, away from the target, into empty sky. Every part of him screams to ignore it, to aim where the enemy is, to lead the target the way his hands know how. But he doesn't. He has learned to trust the box. His right hand moves, gentle pressure. Left, the Sabre responds, rolling into the drift. The pipper slides closer to the MiG. Closer. The radar range ticks down. 1,100 feet. 1,000. The MiG pilot pulls harder, tighter bleeding speed to turn. The silver aircraft is outlined against the pale sky so close, Everett can see the red star on the fuselage, can see the exhaust shimmer. 900 feet. The pipper settles, locks, centered on empty air 2 plane lengths ahead of the MiG. Everett's thumb finds the gun trigger. He squeezes. 6 Browning machine guns erupt. 50 caliber rounds, 1,800 rounds per minute combined, pouring out into the sky ahead of him. The aircraft shudders. Smoke streams back over the canopy. He counts. 1, 2, releases. The tracers arc forward, red lines against pale sky. They seem to be going nowhere, missing by miles. And then the MiG flies into them. The right wing shears off. Just gone. One moment an aircraft. The next moment, pieces tumbling through the air, glittering like broken glass in the high-altitude sun. The fuselage spins. The canopy blows. A figure tumbles out, the Soviet pilot, ejecting his parachute, a white flower against the brown earth below. Everett rolls wings level, lets the nose drop. The Sabre descends back toward the thicker air where it can breathe. His hands are shaking. On the radio, a Soviet voice. Intercepted. Translated later. The words crackling through the static. Impossible. He fired where nothing was. How did he know? Everett stares at the gun sight, the black box, the ghost maker. He doesn't answer. He never does. This was his 15th victory. By the time the war ended, he would have 19, 5th highest American ace in Korea. But the numbers don't tell the story. They never do. This is the story of a Montana ranch hand who learned to surrender instinct, who became half pilot, half machine, who turned himself into a weapon the Soviets could not understand and could not stop. The story of the ghost of MiG Alley. And it begins not in the frozen sky over Korea, but in a place where the sky is wide and clean and honest. 1938, Bozeman, Montana. Everett Dalton is 15 years old and his hands are bleeding. He stands in the shearing shed behind his family's ranch house, holding the electric clippers his father bought last spring. The sheep between his knees is struggling, bleeding, its wool half removed in ragged patches. Everett's fingers are cramped. The clippers are hot. He has been doing this since dawn, and the sun is high now, burning through the gaps in the wooden walls. His father leans against the doorframe, watching, always watching. "You're gripping too hard," his father says. Everett doesn't respond, just keeps shearing. The wool falls in uneven chunks. "Let the tool do the work. You're fighting it." Everett releases pressure. The clippers glide smoother. The sheep settles. The wool comes away clean. His father steps forward, takes the clippers from Everett's hands, finishes the job in 30 seconds. Fast. Efficient. The kind of skill that comes from 30 years of doing the same thing. Tools are just tools, his father says. They don't think. They don't feel. You have to think for them. Trust your hands, not the machine. Everett nods. He is bleeding from a dozen small cuts where he held the clippers wrong. His father hands him a rag. Machines fail, Everett. Men endure. His father's name is Thomas Dalton. He flew in the Great War. Not a pilot, a cavalry officer. He rode horses into battle in France in 1917 before they realized horses couldn't stop machine guns. He came home with a medal and a limp and a deep distrust of anything that required gasoline. But Everett is not interested in sheep. 3 miles from the ranch, there is a grass airfield, a crop dusting operation. 2 biplanes, old Stearman trainers converted for agricultural work. Everett rides his bicycle there every Saturday, watches the pilots take off and land, watches them bank and dive over the wheat fields trailing clouds of pesticide. One Saturday, the owner asks if Everett wants to go up. Everett is 17. He says yes. The Stearman has an open cockpit. The wind is immediate, violent. The engine roars and the ground falls away, and suddenly the ranch is small. The mountains are close. The sky is everywhere. The pilot lets Everett take the stick. "Feel it," the pilot says through the speaking tube. "Don't think, just feel." Everett's hands are on the controls. He pulls back. The nose rises. Too much. The aircraft stalls, buffets drops. He pushes forward. Too much. The nose stay gentle, the pilot says, like you're holding a bird. If you grip too hard, you'll kill it. Everett tries again. Lighter. The aircraft responds. Banks, turns, the horizon tilts, and the world becomes new. When they land, Everett knows what he wants to do with his life. His father doesn't understand. "Flying is for rich men," Thomas says, or dead men. But Everett keeps going back, keeps learning. The owner lets him work off flight hours by cleaning the hangar, repairing fabric, mixing fuel. By 1941, Everett can fly the Stearman better than the owner, can land it in a crosswind, can bring it down in a field barely longer than the wingspan. He learns by feel, by instinct, by the way the stick talks to his hands and the rudder pedals that talk to his feet. His father is right about one thing: tools don't think. But good hands can make tools sing. Then December 7th arrives. Pearl Harbor. Everett's older brother Clayton enlists the next week, Army Air Corps. He wants to be a navigator. Clayton is good with numbers, good with maps. He has always been the smart one. Everett waits until February, then he enlists too. "You're going to get yourself killed," his father says. Maybe Everett says, "But I'm going." There is a girl. Her name is Evelyn Hayes. She works at the library in Bozeman. Dark hair, quiet voice. She has been watching Everett watch the sky for 2 years. The night before he leaves, they sit on the porch of the library after it closes. The stars are out. Montana stars. Endless. "You Dalton boys always come home," she says. Everett doesn't know what to say to that, so he just holds her hand. "I'll wait," she says. He kisses her. Once. Softly. Then he goes. 1950. October. Korea. The telegram arrives at the ranch on a Tuesday. Thomas Dalton opens it with hands that shake, reads it twice, sits down at the kitchen table and does not move for an hour. Clayton Dalton. Navigator B-29 Super Fortress. Shot down over Sinuiju, North Korea, October 23rd. No survivors. Everett is stationed at Kimpo Air Base, South Korea when he gets the news. He is 27 years old. He has been flying F-86 Sabres for 6 months. He has never fired his guns in anger. The chaplain tells him, offers to arrange leave. Everett declines. I want to fly, he says. Son, maybe you should. I want to fly, Mom. He flies that afternoon, a patrol over the Yellow Sea. Nothing happens. No contact. Just blue water and empty sky. When he lands, he walks to the operations tent and volunteers for MiG Alley missions. The operations officer looks at him. Knows about Clayton. You sure? Yes, sir. MiG Alley is bad, Dalton. Those Soviet pilots are good, and their jets are better than ours. I don't care. The officer nods. Writes Everett's name on the roster. MiG Alley, the nickname for the airspace over the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China. Soviet pilots fly from bases in Manchuria across the river, engage American aircraft, and retreat back across the border where they cannot be followed. The MiG-15 is a revelation, a shock. When it first appeared in the skies over Korea, it stunned the Western Air Forces. Swept wings, jet engine, fast, high-flying, armed with cannons that can tear a bomber apart with a single burst. The F-86 Sabre is good, but the MiG is better. On paper, the MiG climbs faster, flies higher, accelerates harder. The Soviet pilots know it. They use altitude as a weapon. Dive, attack, zoom back up to safety before the American jets can respond. If an American pilot finds himself in trouble, there is no escape. The MiG can climb where the Sabre cannot follow. It is a sanctuary in the sky. November 1950, Everett's first mission over MiG Alley. 4 F-86, escort duty for a reconnaissance flight. The weather is clear, visibility unlimited. At 25,000 feet, Everett can see the curve of the Earth. The MiGs come from above, always from above. 6 of them, silver arrows diving fast. The formation scatters, radio calls, confusion. Everett brakes hard, pulls into a climbing turn, trying to get angles on the nearest MiG. The MiG climbs, effortlessly, 5,000 feet per minute, straight up into the thin air. Everett follows, his Sabre claws for altitude. 3,000 feet per minute, not enough. The MiG pulls away, untouchable. Everett's hands tighten on the stick. He wants to chase, wants to follow, but the Sabre is already shaking. The controls are mushy. The engine is gasping. He has to let it go. The MiG disappears into the sun. Everett returns to base, frustrated, angry. In the debriefing, the intelligence officer explains the problem. The MiG-15 has a better thrust-to-weight ratio. It could climb higher and faster. If they get altitude on you, you can't catch them. So what do we do? Someone asks. Don't let them get altitude. Easy to say, impossible to do. Over the next 3 weeks, Everett flies 14 more missions. He sees MiGs on 12 of them. He fires his guns 3 times. All misses. The problem is mathematics. At 600 miles per hour, the human brain cannot calculate deflection, cannot judge lead distance, cannot predict where a target will be in 2 seconds. Everett's gun sight is an ASP-1N optical reflector, a simple piece of glass with a crosshair projected onto it. It does not compute. It does not calculate. It just shows where the nose is pointing. To hit a target, Everett has to aim ahead. Lead the shot. But how much at 600 miles per hour with both aircraft maneuvering the variables are infinite? Range, closure rate, turn radius, altitude, wind, air density. His hands know how to fly, but his hands cannot do calculus. On his 15th mission, Everett empties all his ammunition at a MiG turning in front of him. He fires for 8 seconds, nearly 1,000 rounds. Not a single hit. The MiG climbs away, untouched. Everett lands, sits in the cockpit, stares at his hands. His father's voice. Trust your hands, not the machine. But his hands are not enough. December 1950. The briefing room at Kimpo Air Base is packed. Every F-86 pilot in the squadron is present. The mood is tense. The loss rate has been climbing. 3 aircraft shot down in the last week. The MiG-15 is dominating the sky. Colonel Amos Kincaid stands at the front of the room. He is 46 years old, flew P-51 Mustangs in Europe, shot down 7 German fighters. He knows what air superiority looks like. This is not it. Gentlemen, Kincaid says, the situation is unacceptable. The enemy controls the altitude. They engage when they want, disengage when they want. Our bombers can't operate in daylight because the MiGs can reach them and we can't stop them. Silence. But that's about to change. Kincaid nods to the intelligence officer. The officer pulls a tarp off a table at the front of the room. On the table is a black box, about the size of a shoebox. Wires, vacuum tubes, a small glass reflector screen. This, Kincaid says, is the AN/APG-30 radar ranging unit in the A4 computing gun sight. It's been in development at MIT for 3 years. We're the first squadron to get it. The pilots lean forward. How does it work? Someone asks. The intelligence officer steps up. He is young, nervous, clearly more comfortable with books than airplanes. The radar measures the exact distance to the target. The gyroscope inside the sight senses your aircraft's turn rate G, load, and angle. The computer takes all that information and calculates where the target will be when your bullets arrive. Then it projects an aiming point onto the glass. So it aims for us, someone asks. No, you still have to fly the aircraft, but instead of aiming at the target, you aim at the pipper. The sight knows where the target will be. You just have to trust it. Murmurs, skepticism. How accurate is it? In testing, hit probability increased from 15% to 68%. Silence. That's over 4 times better, Kincaid says. Gentlemen, this is the edge we need. Everett stares at the black box. He thinks about his father. Machines fail, men endure. But men are failing too. The new F-86F models arrived the next week. Modified noses with the AN/APG-30 radar. The A4 sight installed in every cockpit. Ground school begins immediately. The instructor is a civilian engineer from North American Aviation. He has never flown in combat. He speaks in technical terms that make the pilot's eyes glaze over. The key, he says, is to stop thinking. The sight is smarter than you. Don't second guess it. Don't try to correct it. Just put the pipper on the target and squeeze the trigger. What if the pipper is wrong? Someone asks. It's not wrong. Your eyes are wrong. Your instincts are wrong. The pipper is mathematically correct. Everett raises his hand. What if the gyroscope fails? What if the radar breaks? The engineer smiles. Then you're back to the old way. But the A4 is built to tolerances of 1/millionth of an inch. It doesn't fail. 1/millionth of an inch. Everett tries to imagine that kind of precision. Can't. The simulator training begins the next day. They sit in mock cockpits with the A4 sight active. Enemy aircraft projected on screens. The pilots practice tracking. Everett's first run is a disaster. The target MiG turns left. The pipper drifts right, away from the target. Every instinct tells Everett to ignore the pipper and aim at the MiG. He does. Fires. Misses. The instructor stops the simulation. You aimed at the target. Yes. Don't do that. Aim at the pipper. But the pipper was pointing at empty sky because the target was going to be in that empty sky when your bullets arrived. You aimed at where it was. The sight aimed at where it was going to be. Everett tries again. The MiG turns. The pipper drifts. This time Everett forces himself, aims at the pipper, fires, hit. It feels wrong, feels like cheating, feels like he's not flying anymore, just obeying. But it works. That night, Everett writes a letter to Evelyn. They want me to trust a machine over 200 hours of flying. They want me to stop thinking and just follow a dot on a glass screen. My father would say it's madness. Maybe it is, but Clayton died because we couldn't hit them. If this box can change that, I'll learn to trust it, even if it kills me to do it. He seals the letter, sends it. Then he goes back to the simulator. By the end of the week, Everett is the best in the squadron. Not because he understands the mathematics, not because he trusts the technology, because he is desperate enough to let go of everything he knows. January 1951. The new F-86F models are declared operational. The squadron is cleared for combat missions with the A4 sight. Colonel Kincaid gathers the pilots one more time. Gentlemen, the Soviets don't know about this yet. They think we're still using the old sights. That gives us an advantage, but only if you use it correctly. Smooth flying, no wild maneuvers, let the sights settle, trust the pipper. He pauses. The enemy calls this place MiG Alley because they own it. Let's take it back. Everett sits in the back of the room, stares at his hands. They are steady now, no longer bleeding from sheep shears, no longer cramped from gripping too hard. But they are about to do something they have never done before. They are about to let go. The mathematics of aerial gunnery at 600 miles per hour is not complicated. It is impossible. Everett learns this in a classroom at Kimpo Air Base, sitting at a wooden desk that wobbles when he writes. The instructor, a balding engineer from MIT, whose hands have never touched a control stick, draws on a blackboard with chalk that squeaks. Assume, the engineer says, that you are pursuing a MiG-15 in a turn. The MiG is flying at 550 miles per hour. You are flying at 600. Both aircraft are at 25,000 feet altitude. He writes numbers. Your closure rate, the speed at which you are approaching the target, is not simply the difference between your speeds. Because you are both turning, the geometry is more complex. More numbers, equations, Greek letters. But let's simplify. Assume you are closing at 150 miles per hour. That's 220 feet per second. Your target is 1,200 yards away. That's 3,600 feet. He taps the chalk against the board. Your 50 caliber bullets leave the gun at 2,800 feet per second. Sounds fast. But they don't travel in a straight line. They arc. Gravity pulls them down. At 1,200 yards, the drop is significant, and the bullets slow down. Drag. By the time they reach the target, they're traveling maybe 2,400 feet per second. He turns to face the class. So, time for the bullet to reach the target. 3,600 feet divided by 2,400 feet per second. 1.5 seconds. He writes 1.5 seconds in large numbers. But the target is not stationary. The MiG is moving at 550 miles per hour. That's 807 feet per second. In 1.5 seconds, the MiG travels 1,210 feet. He pauses, lets that sink in. 1,210 feet. That's 4 football fields. You cannot aim at where the MiG is. You must aim at where it will be, 1.5 seconds in the future. Silence in the classroom. And we haven't even accounted for the turn. If the MiG is pulling 4 Gs in a turn, it's also changing direction. The turn radius at that speed and G load is approximately 3,200 feet. So the MiG is not just moving forward, it's arcing, curving through space. He draws a curved line. You must calculate the intercept point, where your bullets and the MiG will arrive at the same moment in space and time. To do that, you need to know closure rate, turn rate, altitude, air density, temperature, the ballistic coefficient of your ammunition, the muzzle velocity, accounting for barrel wear, the drift caused by wind, and the effect of your own aircraft's movement. He looks at the pilots. The human brain processes visual information in approximately 0.3 seconds. Minimum. That's reaction time. From seeing the target to deciding to shoot. 0.3 seconds. He writes it on the board. At 600 miles per hour, you travel 264 feet in 0.3 seconds. By the time you decide to shoot, the geometry has already changed. The intercept point has moved. Another pause. And even if you could calculate all of this instantly, which you can't, you still have to move your hands. Hand-eye coordination adds another 0.2 seconds. So you're already 0.5 seconds behind reality. He taps the board one more time. 0.5 seconds at 600 miles per hour. You are 440 feet behind before you even start. Someone in the back of the room speaks up. So what do we do, huh? The engineer smiles, and you stop trying to do it yourself. He walks to the front of the room, pulls the tarp off the A4 gun sight sitting on the demonstration table. This, he says, does the mathematics for you. He opens the casing. Inside, the complexity is staggering. Gyroscopes, vacuum tubes, magnetic amplifiers. Wiring so delicate it looks like spiderweb. The AN-AP G-30 radar in your aircraft's nose measures the distance to the target, constantly, 10 times per second, accurate to within 3 feet. He points to the gyroscope assembly. This floated integrating gyroscope senses your aircraft's movement, turn rate, pitch, yaw, yet by load. The gyroscope is machined to tolerances of 1/1,000,000th of an inch. The bearings are so precise that if you scale them up to the size of the Earth, the imperfections would be smaller than a human hair. 1/1,000,000th of an inch. Everett tries to imagine hands that can build something that precise. Can't. The gyroscope floats in a fluid, 50 centistokes viscosity at 25 degrees Celsius. This fluid dampens vibrations, absorbs shocks. When your aircraft banks, the gyroscope feels it instantly. When you pull G's, it knows. The engineer touches the vacuum tubes. These tubes form an analog computer. They take the radar range and the gyroscope data and calculate the ballistic solution. Every variable. Closure rate, turn radius, altitude compensation, bullet drop, everything. He looks up. Processing time 0.08 seconds. Someone whistles. 0.08 seconds, 6 times faster than your brain. And unlike your brain, the computer doesn't get tired, doesn't get scared, doesn't second-guess itself. He points to the reflector glass. The solution is displayed here, as a pipper, an aiming point. But here's the critical part. The pipper does not point at the target. It points at where the target will be when your bullets arrive. Silence. The pipper drifts, floats, moves across the glass as the geometry changes. Your job, your only job, is to fly the aircraft so that the pipper stays on the target. He pauses. But here's the trick. When you try to put the pipper on the target, you are actually flying the aircraft into the correct lead angle. You think you're aiming, you're not. You're flying the solution without knowing it. Everett stares at the device. The sight, the engineer says, is not helping you aim. It's tricking you into solving the equation with your hands instead of your head. After the class, Everett walks outside. The air is cold. The sky is pale. He thinks about his father, about sheep shears and bleeding hands. Trust your hands, not the machine. But the machine is smarter than his hands. That night, he writes to Evelyn, I don't know how to explain what they're asking us to do. It's like learning to walk backwards. Everything I know about flying, about aiming, is wrong. The sight shows me empty sky and says, shoot here. Every part of me says no, but the machine knows things I can't see, can't feel, can't calculate. They're asking me to stop being a pilot and become something else, a part of the machine. I don't know if I can do it, but I have to try. For Clayton. He seals the letter, doesn't mail it yet. February 9th, 1951. The mission briefing is routine. 4 F-86 Sabres. Patrol Sector 7, MiG Alley. Expect enemy contact. Everett's aircraft is tail number 5, 2-4584. Brand new. The radar bulge in the nose is still shiny. The A4 sight was installed 3 days ago. This is his first combat mission with the new equipment. Before takeoff, the crew chief walks him through the pre-flight one more time. Radar is calibrated. Gyros are spun up. Fluid temperature is nominal. It's ready, Captain. Everett nods, climbs into the cockpit. The A4 sight sits behind the armored glass. Black metal, glass reflector. It looks simple, innocuous. He flips the power switch. The gyros begin to whine. High-pitched. A sound like distant turbines. On the reflector glass, the orange pipper appears. Centered. Waiting. Takeoff is smooth. The 4-ship formation climbs to 28,000 feet. The weather is clear. The Yalu River below is a frozen scar across brown earth. They orbit for 20 minutes. Nothing. Then the radar operator at Kimpo calls, Bandits, 320 at 40 miles high. Everett looks up, sees nothing, just pale sky. The radar in his nose is searching, sweeping. Then it locks. A tone in his headset. The AN-APG-30 has found something. Range 22,000 feet. He looks at the gun sight. The pipper is gone. The radar range is too far. Tally, his flight leader calls. 2 MiGs, high 12 o'clock. Now Everett sees them, 2 silver dots, 30,000 feet, descending. The MiGs dive, fast. They're using gravity acceleration. By the time they reach 28,000 feet, they're doing 650 miles per hour. Break, the flight leader shouts. The formation scatters. Everett brakes right, pulls hard, 4 Gs. The horizon tilts. 1 MiG flashes past, misses, pulls up. Everett rolls wings level. Looks up, the MiG is climbing. Vertical. Everett follows. This is where it always ends. The MiG climbs away. Unreachable. But Everett has the A4 now. He pulls the nose up, follows. The Sabre claws for altitude. The engine is screaming. The airspeed is bleeding off. 600, 550, 500. The MiG is still climbing. Everett stays with it. The radar locks, tone in his headset, range 1,400 feet. The Pipper appears on the glass. It is not pointing at the MiG. The MiG is directly in front of him, centered in the windscreen. Climbing. Every fiber of Everett's training says aim there. Lead slightly. Fire. But the Pipper is drifting left, away from the MiG, into empty sky. Everett's hands tighten on the stick. This is the moment. Trust or don't trust. He thinks about Clayton, about the telegram, about 3 weeks of missing every shot. He rolls left, chases the Pipper. The Sabre responds. Banks. The Pipper drifts closer to the MiG. Closer. Range 1,200 feet. The MiG pilot is pulling harder now, tighter. The silver aircraft is outlined against the sky. So close. The Pipper settles, locks, centered on a point 2 plane lengths ahead of the MiG. Everett's thumb finds the trigger. He thinks, this is wrong. This is empty sky. There's nothing there. He fires anyway. 2 seconds. That's the rule. Never more than 2 seconds. The 6 Browning guns roar. The tracers pour out. Red lines. They seem to be going nowhere. Everett counts. 1, 2, releases. The tracers arc forward, and the MiG flies into them. It happens so fast. One moment an aircraft, the next moment the right wing is shredding, metal peeling back. The wing folds, snaps off, the MiG tumbles, spins. The canopy blows, the pilot ejects. Everett rolls inverted, watches the wreckage fall. His hands are shaking. On the radio, silence. Then his wingman's voice. Splash 1 confirmed. Everett doesn't respond. Can't. He looks at the gun sight, the black box. It knew. It knew where the MiG was going to be. Knew 1.5 seconds into the future. Calculated the intercept point while Everett was still trying to process what he was seeing. He fired at nothing. The machine made it something. Landing is a blur. The crew chief is excited. First kill with the A4. He wants to know how it felt. Everett climbs out of the cockpit, walks to the back of the hangar, sits on a crate. His hands are still shaking, not from fear, from the realization. He was not in control. The sight was in control. He was just the mechanism, the trigger finger. That night, he writes to Evelyn again. I got my first kill today, but I didn't kill him. The machine did. I just obeyed. Fired where it told me to fire, and a man died. The sight was right. I was wrong. About everything. The lead angle, the intercept point, all of it. My father said, trust your hands. But my hands are obsolete. I don't know what I am anymore. Pilot, machine, something in between. All I know is it works, and Clayton deserves that. He seals the letter. This time he mails it. March, April, May. Everett flies 42 more missions, gets 5 more kills. Each one is the same. The radar locks, the Pipper appears, he chases it, fires. The MiG dies. It becomes routine, mechanical, precise. The other pilots in the squadron struggle. They fight the sight, try to correct it, second guess it. They miss. Everett doesn't fight it. He has learned to let go. Smooth flying, the instructor said. He flies smooth. Gentle inputs. Squeeze the stick. Don't yank. Let the gyros settle. Let the computer solve. His 6th kill is a MiG-15 at 19,000 feet. Turning fight. The Pipper drifts across the canopy glass like a ghost. Everett follows it. Fires. The MiG explodes. 7 seconds from radar lock to kill. His 7th kill is even faster. 5 seconds. The squadron starts to notice. How are you doing at Dalton? Someone asked in the mess hall. Everett shrugs. I just do what it tells me. But don't you feel like you're not really flying? Everett looks at his hands, thinks about that. No, he says. I feel like I'm finally flying correctly. By late May, Everett has 8 victories. The intelligence officers are tracking. He is becoming one of the top scorers in the squadron. But the Soviets are tracking too. Captured radio intercepts. Translated. Soviet pilots talking about an American they cannot escape, cannot outmaneuver. They call him Prizrak, the ghost. He shoots where we will be, not where we are. He knows the future. The name spreads. The ghost of Mig Alley. Everett doesn't hear it at first, doesn't know they're talking about him. His wingman tells him, Lieutenant Garrett Finch, 24 years old, from Austin, Texas. Good pilot, steady. The intel boys say the Soviets are scared of you, Rhett. They're scared of the sight. No, they're scared of you because you trust it. The rest of us, we're still thinking. You're not. You just fly. Everett doesn't know how to respond to that. That night, Colonel Kincaid pulls him aside. You're setting an example, Dalton. The other pilots are watching, learning from you. I'm just following the pipper, sir. That's the point. You figured out what the engineers couldn't explain. You can't think your way through this. You have to feel it. Trust it. Kincaid pauses. The Soviets are trying to figure out what we're doing, how we're hitting them from ranges that should be impossible. They don't know about the A4 yet. When they find out, they're going to try to copy it. But copying the hardware won't help them. They need pilots who can let go, like you. Everett thinks about his father, about the sheep shears, about the Stearman biplane and the crop dusting instructor who said, feel it, don't think it. Maybe he's been training for this his whole life, learning to let tools work, learning to get out of the way. June arrives. The summer heat turns the airfield into a dust bowl. Everett flies every day, sometimes twice a day. His 9th kill, his 10th. Each one faster than the last, each one more precise. The Soviet pilots changed their tactics. They stop diving on the Americans, stop pressing attacks. They stay high, safe, wary. Mig Alley is no longer their territory. It belongs to the ghost. But across the Yalu River in the laboratories of Moscow, something is happening. Something Everett doesn't know about yet. The Soviets have recovered a crashed F-86 intact. The A4 site is damaged but recognizable. They are studying it, reverse engineering it, trying to understand the ghost in the machine. And they are terrified of what they're finding. Moscow. The NII 17 Research Institute. A windowless room lit by harsh fluorescent tubes. On the steel examination table lies the heart of the American ghost. The A4 computing gun site. Recovered from a crashed F-86 that belly landed in the tidal flats near the coast. The pilot ejected, was rescued, but the aircraft sank into the mud before the American bombers could destroy it. Chinese laborers pulled it out at night, loaded it onto a train, sent it north. Now Soviet engineers stand around the table like surgeons around a patient. Major Viktor Sokolov watches from the doorway. He is 32 years old, flew against the Luftwaffe, 14 kills. He knows what skill looks like, what training looks like, what happens when a superior machine meets inferior tactics. But this is different. The head engineer, a man named Petrov, thin glasses hands that have never held a control stick, uses a jeweler's screwdriver to open the casing. Inside, the complexity is staggering. Gyroscopes smaller than a fist. Suspended in oil, the bearings machined so precisely that under a microscope, they look like they were made by something other than human hands. Vacuum tubes. Dozens of them. Wired together in a web of connections that makes no immediate sense. Magnetic amplifiers. Resistors. Capacitors. Components that look more like a radio than a weapon. Petrov touches the gyroscope housing gently. Reverently. This, he says, Watsi, is what has been killing us. Victor steps closer. It's a gun sight. How can a gun sight? It's not a gun sight. It's a computer. Petrov points to the radar connection port. The American aircraft has a ranging radar in the nose. It measures the distance to the target, feeds that information here. He touches the gyroscope. This senses the aircraft's movement, turn rate, G-load, pitch, yaw, everything. He traces the wiring. The vacuum tubes calculate the ballistic solution, where the bullets will go, where the target will be, the intercept point, all of it, automatically, faster than any human can think. Victor stares at the device. How fast? 0.08 seconds. Silence. Petrov looks up at Victor. We are not fighting pilots, Major. We are fighting mathematics, and we are losing to numbers we cannot even calculate. That night, Victor writes a report. It goes directly to Stalin. The response comes back within 48 hours. Copy it exactly. Begin mass production immediately. The order goes out, the best factories, the best engineers, unlimited resources. They call it the ASP-4N. They build the exterior first. The casing, the mounting brackets, the glass reflector. It looks identical to the American version. But when they start building the internals, the problems begin. The gyroscope requires bearings machined to tolerances of 1/1,000,000th of an inch. Soviet factories are built to produce tanks, artillery, gross tonnage. They can make something close, 50 millionths of an inch. Close, not good enough. The fluid that suspends the gyroscope must be a specific viscosity, 50 centistokes at 25 degrees Celsius. Pure, no impurities, no contaminants. The Soviet chemical industry produces something similar. Close enough, the factory managers say. Good enough for the quota, not good enough. The production lines run anyway. Orders from Moscow. Stalin does not accept delays. By November 1951, the first ASP-4N sites are rolling off the assembly lines. Thousands of them, installed in new MiG-17 fighters, rush to the front. The Soviet pilots are ecstatic. Finally, they say, now we have the electronic brain. Now we are equal. Viktor Sokolov is not ecstatic. He has seen the manufacturing reports, seen the tolerances. He knows what close enough means in precision engineering. But he says nothing. Orders are orders. June 19th, 1951, Kimpo Air Base. The briefing room. Colonel Kincaid stands at the front, behind him a map of North Korea. Red circles mark the target. Sinuiju, the bridges over the Yalu River. Everett sits in the front row. Garrett Finch sits beside him. Gentlemen, Kincaid says, this is Operation Reaper. He taps the map. 4 B-29 bombers will strike the bridges at Sinuiju at 0900 hours. We expect a heavy MiG presence. Intelligence reports 18 to 24 enemy aircraft in the area. Murmurs. Our job is to keep the MiGs off the bombers. 4 F-86. We'll be outnumbered, but we have the A-4. Use it. He pauses. Captain Dalton will lead. Everett doesn't react, doesn't move. Kincaid looks at him. This is personal for you, Dalton. I know that. Your brother was shot down over Sinuiju, but I need you clear-headed, focused. Yes, sir. After the briefing, Garrett pulls Everett aside. 18 to 4 odds, Rhett. We've had worse. Have we? Everett looks at his wingman. Garrett is 24. Bright eyes. Engaged to a girl named Marie back in Austin. Carries her picture in his flight suit pocket. Stay smooth, Everett says. Trust the sight. We'll be fine. Garrett nods. Doesn't look convinced. That night, Everett sits in his tent. Writes a letter to Evelyn. Tomorrow we fly to Sinuiju, where Clayton died. Part of me wants revenge, wants to make them pay. But another part of me knows that revenge won't bring him back. Won't change anything. The site doesn't care about revenge. Doesn't care about anger or fear or grief. It just calculates. Solves, executes. Maybe that's better. Maybe that's the only way to survive this. Turn yourself into a machine. Feel nothing. Just fly. I miss you. I miss Montana. I miss the person I used to be. But that person is gone, and I don't know if he's coming back. He seals the letter, puts it in his pocket. Then he walks to the flight line. Looks at his F-86, tail number 5, 2-4-584. The crew chief is doing final checks. She's ready, Captain. Everett climbs into the cockpit, sits, doesn't start the engine, just sits. He touches the A-4 sight, the black box. Tomorrow it will kill, or he will, or both. June 20th, 0847 hours, 29,000 feet, 4 F-86 Sabres in loose combat spread. Below them, 4 B-29 super fortresses lumbering toward the target. The Yalu River is a frozen line across brown earth. Everett's radar is scanning, sweeping. Nothing yet. Bandits, the controller calls. 350 at 60 miles, high. Multiple contacts. Everett looks up, sees nothing. Then the sun catches them. Silver glints. 12? No, 18. MiG-15s, 32,000 feet. Diving. Here they come, Everett says. Stay smooth, let the sight work. The MiGs come fast, they split. 6 high, 6 middle, 6 low, coordinated, so professional. This is not a training unit. This is the Soviet 64th Fighter Aviation Corps. Veterans, Everett breaks right. Defensive split, engage at will. The sky becomes chaos, MiGs everywhere. Silver arrows cutting through pale sky. Tracers, smoke trails, radio calls overlapping. Everett pulls into a climbing turn. A MiG flashes past. He reverses, locks radar. Range 1,400 feet. The Pipper appears, drifts left. Everett follows, smooth. The MiG pulls hard. 4Gs, the Pipper tracks, settles, Everett fires, 2 seconds. The MiG's left wing shears off, the aircraft tumbles. No ejection. Splash 1, Garrett calls. Everett rolls, looks for the next target. Below Garrett is engaged. 3 MiGs on him. He's braking hard, defensive. Little help here, Rhett. Everett pulls the nose down, ding. But another MiG cuts him off, forces him to brake. He loses sight of Garrett. The MiG in front of him pulls vertical. Everett follows. Radar locks. This pilot is good. Smooth. He's using the MiG's climb rate, trying to get altitude sanctuary. Everett stays with him. The A4 Pipper appears, drifts, settles. He fires. The MiG's tail section disintegrates. The aircraft pitches forward, spins. A parachute blooms. Viktor Sokolov watches his aircraft fall away below him, watches the American F-86 roll level, watches it turn back toward the fight. He knows that aircraft, knows the pilot, the ghost. On the radio, his wingman is screaming. Garrett's voice cuts through. I'm hit, hydraulics failing, I can't. Everett looks, sees Garrett's F-86 2 miles away, smoke streaming, descending. Eject, Garrett, eject. No response. The F-86 spirals. Nose down, 30 degrees, 40, 50. No ejection seat firing, no parachute. It hits the ground at 400 miles per hour. The explosion is a brief orange flower against brown earth. Then nothing. Everett's hands tighten on the stick. Rage floods through him. Hot, blinding. He brakes toward the nearest MiG. Pulls hard. Too hard. Yanks the stick. The A4 Pipper bounces. Jitters. The gyros are tumbling. The sight is trying to settle, but he's not giving it time. He fires anyway, misses. The MiG rolls. Everett follows, jerking the stick, fighting the aircraft. The Pipper is useless now. Jumping across the glass. Another MiG cuts in. Everett brakes, nearly collides. The Sabre stalls. Buffets. He's going to die. Then Clayton's voice. A memory. Years ago. Montana. Keep your head, little brother. Panic kills. Everett forces his hands to relax. Unloads the Gs. Smoothly rolls the aircraft. The A4 Pipper settles, stabilizes. He's back in control. A MiG crosses in front. Everett doesn't think. Just follows the Pipper. Squeezes the trigger. 2 seconds. The MiG explodes. But he doesn't feel victory. Doesn't feel anything. Garrett is dead. The bombers reach the target, drop their ordnance. The bridges at Sinuiju collapse into the frozen river. Mission success. 3 F-86s return to base. Everett lands, taxis to the hard stand, shuts down the engine. He sits in the cockpit for 15 minutes. Doesn't move, doesn't unbuckle. The crew chief approaches, sees Everett's face, stops, backs away. Finally, Everett climbs out, walks to the operations tent. Colonel Kincaid is there. 3 kills, Dalton. Hell of a mission. Everett looks at him. Garrett's dead. I know, I'm sorry. I followed orders, stayed with the bombers, let the machine make the decisions. You did your job. Garrett called for help. I was engaging another target. The sight had a lock. I followed it, and Garrett died. Kincaid doesn't respond. Everett's voice is flat, empty. The sight doesn't care about wingmen, doesn't care about people. It just solves equations. And I obeyed. He walks out. That night, Everett sits alone. Doesn't write to Evelyn, doesn't write to anyone, just stares at his hands. They are steady, precise, perfectly calibrated to follow a pipper on a glass screen. But they couldn't save Garrett Finch. Lieutenant Garrett Finch was 24 years old, from Austin, Texas, engaged to a girl named Marie. He carried her picture in his flight suit pocket. His mother received the telegram 3 days later. The same telegram Everett's mother received for Clayton. The same words, the same grief. The site had calculated everything perfectly. Intercept points, lead angles, ballistic solutions, everything except what mattered. December 1951. The Soviet units received the ASP-4N sights. The pilots are briefed, told the device works exactly like the American version, told it will give them the advantage they need. Viktor Sokolov, back in combat after his ejection, is assigned a MiG-17 with the new sight installed. He flies a test mission over China, locks the radar on a target drone. The pipper appears, drifts smoothly. It looks perfect. The next day he flies combat, encounters an F-86, not the Ghost, a different pilot. Victor locks radar, range 1,300 feet. The pipper appears. Then it jumps, jitters, wanders across the glass like it's lost. Victor tries to follow it. The pipper settles for a moment. He fires. The shells miss by 300 yards. The reticle lied. Victor breaks off. Confused, furious. On the ground, he rips the casing off the ASP-4N, examines the gyroscope. Under magnification, he can see it. The bearing clearances are too large. The fluid is contaminated, tiny metal particles floating in the oil. When he pulls G's, the gyroscope rubs, overheats. The calculations go wrong. The Soviet copy looks perfect, but it's a corpse, a hollow shell. Across the front, the same story repeats. Soviet pilots try the ASP-4N. It fails. They turn it off. Cage the gyroscope. Return to manual aiming. The electronic brain that was supposed to save them becomes a joke, a lie. Victor writes another report. We can copy the design, he writes. We cannot copy their manufacturing. The Americans build to tolerances we cannot achieve. They have clean rooms, temperature control, chemical purity. We have quotas and shortcuts. We have lost this war before it began, not because of tactics, not because of courage, because of microns, because of precision we do not possess. The report goes to Moscow. Victor is reassigned. Quietly, no court-martial, just removed. But the truth spreads anyway. The Soviet Air Force stops pressing attacks over MiG Alley. They fly defensive patrols. Stay high, stay safe. The kill ratios shift. F-86's with a foresight's 10.6 kills for every loss. F-86's without a foresight's 1.8 to 1. The mathematics are undeniable. June 1953. Everett has 19 victories. Fifth highest American ace in Korea. He flies every mission the same way. Smooth, precise, emotionless. Lock radar. Follow pipper. Fire. Kill. The other pilots in the squadron fear him now. Not respect. Fear. Dalton's not human anymore, someone says in the mess hall. He's a machine. No one disagrees. Everett doesn't care, doesn't feel. He writes to Evelyn once a week. The letters are short, factual, no emotion. She writes back, long letters, full of Montana, full of hope that he'll come home. He doesn't know how to tell her that the person she's waiting for doesn't exist anymore. July 27, 1953. The armistice is signed. The war's over. Everett's last mission is a routine patrol. No contact, just blue sky and the Yalu River below. He looks at the A4 sight. In 2 years of combat, he fired 2,247 rounds. The sight calculated every shot. Hit probability 68%. He was just the trigger. The flight back to base is quiet. The radio is silent. When he lands, Colonel Kincaid is waiting. You did good, Dalton. You were the best. Everett climbs out of the cockpit, looks at his hands. No, sir. The sight was the best. I was just there. That night, he writes his final letter to Evelyn. I'm coming home, but I need you to know something. The person who left Montana in 1942, that farm boy who trusted his hands, He's not coming back. He died somewhere over the Yalu. What's coming back is something else. A man who learned that machines are smarter than instinct, that survival means surrender, that the future belongs to those who can let go. I don't know if you can love that man. I don't know if I can, but he's all that's left. August 1953, Bozeman, Montana. Everett steps off the train. Evelyn is there, waiting. She runs to him, holds him. He holds her back, but his hands are stiff, mechanical. They marry in October. Small ceremony, no military guests. Everett takes over the family ranch. His father died in 1952. Heart attack, alone. Everett never got to tell him he'd learned to trust the machine after all. Everett doesn't fly for 10 years. He raises sheep, fixes fences, does the work with his hands. But at night he dreams of the Pipper, the orange circle drifting across glass, leading him to empty sky where men die. 1963. He visits Garrett Finch's grave in Texas, meets Garrett's mother. She's remarried, has grandchildren. Life continued. He talked about you in his letters, she says. Said you were the best pilot he ever flew with. Everett doesn't know what to say. I'm sorry is all he can manage. 1965, Boeing offers him a Chui test pilot, civilian transports. He accepts, he flies again, but never fighters, never combat aircraft, never anything with a gun sight. April 12, 2001, Bozeman, Montana. Everett Dalton dies at 78, peacefully, in his sleep. Evelyn is beside him. They had 53 years together, 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren. The funeral is full military honors. The Air Force sends a color guard. They bury him in the cemetery on the hill overlooking the ranch. Clayton is there too, his name on a memorial stone. No body ever recovered. The headstone is simple. Captain Everett Dalton, United States Air Force, 1923 to 2001, 19 victories. The ghost of Mig Alley. At the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, an F-86F Sabre sits in the Cold War gallery. Tail number 5, 2-4584, Everett's aircraft. The A-4 computing gun sight is visible through the canopy, black metal and glass. Innocuous, simple. But look closer, the placard explains. This sight calculated ballistic solutions 6 times faster than the human brain. It turned average pilots into aces. It gave the United States air superiority over Korea. It was the first computer to go to war, and it changed everything. The A-4 retired in 1957, but its descendants fight every war since. The F-4 Phantom, lead computing optical sight. The F-16 Falcon, digital fire control. The F-22 Raptor, helmet-mounted cueing. The F-35 Lightning, AI-assisted targeting. Every fighter pilot since 1951 has been part machine. Targeting through silicon, navigating through code, surviving through mathematics. The death of the Knight of the Air, the birth of the cyborg warrior. And somewhere over Montana, a ranch hand learned to trust numbers over instinct, learned to surrender, learned that the future belongs not to those with the quickest hands, but to those brave enough to let go. Viktor Sokolov lived until 1995. In his final interview recorded months before his death, he was asked about the war. The ghost taught us something we Soviets could never accept, he said, that willpower cannot defeat mathematics. We believed human spirit conquers all. The Americans believed machines make men better. They were right. We spent 40 years trying to copy their technology. We never closed the gap. Not because we lacked intelligence, because we lacked precision. 1/1,000,000th of an inch. That was the margin. That was everything. He paused. The war was lost not in the sky, but in the factories, in the clean rooms, in the tolerances we could not achieve. Captain Everett Dalton's 19 victories made him the 5th highest American ace of the Korean War. But his true legacy was not kills. It was proving that warriors willing to surrender instinct, willing to merge with machines, could become something greater than either alone. The record stood for 70 years, but the lesson is eternal. Somewhere right now, over contested airspace, a pilot is following a Pipper on a screen, trusting mathematics over feeling, firing at empty sky and hitting, Because Everett Dalton showed us how. The ghost of Mig Alley flies on.